Back with a review for this is another historical appreciation film. This is Evilenko, starring Malcolm McDowell. It was put out in 2004, and it covers in a loose fashion the pedophile child killer Andrei Chikatilo, the devil that Rostov, or however you want to describe the guy. He was a horrible person. I've read a book about him hunting the devil, which is very good. And then I've seen Citizen X, which came out in the '95, and then of course I had to check out Evilenko. Uh, this is much more of a dramatic representation of the events that from 1978 through to his death in 1994. And it does it about as tastefully as you can expect, given the subject matter. I mean, let's face it, we're talking about an insane schizophrenic that killed 56 some odd women and children in Russia, Ukraine, and it went unchecked for a long time. There were a couple of close calls where he almost got caught, but he managed to evade capture for a long time. And this film dwells on a part of it that Citizen X didn't, which was Andrei Chikatilo was a devout communist. He was born in 1933, and of course he admired and loved Stalin. He was the product of a lot of those purges that Stalin, after the war, World War II, many of the Russians that came back ended up, the children were orphans, because many of the captured Russians were thought to be spies by Stalin and his group, where paranoia kind of ruled, and mothers and fathers were basically exterminated. And so you had a bunch of orphans that grew up with no mother, no father, and that's what happened with Andrei Chikatilo. Not that I'm trying to rationalize it. The bottom line is this guy's well beyond just having a few marbles loose. I mean, you talk about only having 51 cards in the deck. This guy only had 20-some cards in the deck. He was just an insane, evil, nightmarish figure that preyed upon children. That's the only way he could get sexual gratification. And he was a cannibal. He would slice up his victims and eat them. Pretty gruesome stuff. So from a subject matter standpoint, anybody that attempts to portray in a film this subject matter, I got to give them kudos, because that's tough stuff to do, and do it with some level of taste and dignity. They managed to do that here. A lot of the kills are thankfully in your mind, but there is gore and there's blood in this, and it's tough to watch sometimes. Malcolm McDowell plays Andrei Chikatilo, and the film is called Evilenko. And he looks kind of like him. I mean, they did a really good job. I mean, Malcolm has those piercing blue eyes. I actually met Malcolm McDowell at the Texas Frightmare. Very nice man, very nice. It was a funny story, sidebar story. The line to get something signed by Malcolm McDowell, of course, stretched for eons, and I had one of those cut-through tickets, and I got up to his table, and he didn't even look up, and I said, without him looking up, I said, "Look down that line. Don't you get kind of sick of this, endlessly signing stuff? I mean, you could look at that line and just..." I was trying to aggravate him a little bit, and he looked up and he kind of laughed and said, he said, "I don't even look at the line anymore." But he was a nice guy, very funny. Let me take a picture with him. He plays Andrei Chikatilo and does it very well. And he had it picked. If you watch on, say, YouTube, some of the real life documentaries of Andrei Chikatilo, some of the mannerisms he definitely picked up. You can see he picked up those. It was very subtle in some of the things he did. One thing I like about this film is they didn't try to do the foreign fake Russian accents. A lot of the actors and actresses are British, and they just went with it. I mean, that's fine. I hate it when they do the false the false dialogue or the trying to replicate the language and screw it up. I hate that. Um, this disc is a TLA releasing copy, and it's got two discs. Disc one's the movie, and then disc two has an hour and 20 minute making of documentary, which is very interesting. This is an Italian production. Um, the producer and the director, the crew were all Italian. Um, but I thought it was very good and it was very interesting. There's also like a 20-minute archival documentary on Chikatilo and the actors and those type of things. So yeah, it's not as good. Ironically enough, I give it a 6.5 out of 10. It's not as good as Citizen X, which came out in 1995. That movie starred Donald Sutherland and Max von Sydow. I think that was a better movie, better representation of the events. And ironically enough, it's a made-for-TV film, whereas this is a theatrical film. But I still recommend this, particularly if you have an interest in real-life serial killers and Chikatilo specifically. This is worth your time, I think. So yeah, that's Evilenko, and give it a good recommendation, mainly because of the strength of Malcolm McDowell's performance. So appreciate you watching. Thanks.